All right, we are trying a new type of series.
Yep.
Now, this video is based off of startup values. I guess you could use it for the trade market as well. But we are making some decisions. If we are drafting in a dynasty startup, are we going to draft the rookie or the vet?
Right.
Okay. Based off of their ADP and projecting their value in 1 year from now, who are you drafting? The first teammates we are talking about is Amari Cooper or David Bell. So based off of their ADP, we're not saying who would you draft first, but based off of their ADP and projecting their value in 1 year from now, who would you rather draft at their ADP, Badake?
For me, it has to be David Bell. And let's just get straight into it. You know, Deshaun Watson's there. He is the guy. He is the X factor. There's no doubt about it. But I do believe both of these guys will be fantasy relevant. But this is a long-term move, one. And two, I think there's just so much more value on the board where Amari Cooper is currently going. Okay, really, really fast, just to give you where Amari Cooper is going in our past three mock drafts: 8.4, 8.6, 7.9. That's where Amari Cooper is going. About wide receiver 31. Obviously, the ADP is going to be changing and fluctuating throughout the offseason, but that's where he's kind of going: 30, wide receiver 30 to wide receiver 37. That's where I've been seeing according to crowdsourcing. David Bell, okay. His ADP, once again, also going up. I think has been pretty consistent. I've seen wide receiver 53 throughout the whole time. Our last three mock drafts, 10, 11, 10, 7, 9, 10. About, two rounds later. And I think that's a big difference in my opinion. I think this is the reasons why I'm taking David Bell is because what I can get where Amari Cooper is going off the board. I think the value in the players that I have there on a higher tier, and I do believe they can bring a lot more value to my team. This is why I'm taking David Bell later on in the rounds. Okay. Amari Cooper right now is going in the 8th round in dynasty startups, usually. These are the players that are going around him. Obviously, this is all going to fluctuate based on your draft, based on what's going to happen, But these are players that I believe you can either get now, whether you're a win-now team, a futuristic team, or just to flip him in a year's time over to get more value over Amari Cooper, okay? Guys are going in the 8th to maybe 9th round, okay? But in between the two rounds, Darren Waller, Tom Brady, Allen Robinson, Tony Pollard, Brandin Cook, Dallas Goedert, Dawson Knox, Juju Smith, James Conner, and Pat the Dragon himself, Pat Freiermuth. I think these are all guys that I think, in my opinion, a lot more valuable, maybe outside of Tony Pollard. But in my opinion, I believe are a lot more valuable in the 1 year standpoint because we're projecting in a year, 1 year. In a 1 year, in my opinion, that I can bring more value and probably flip later on after this year. So this is why I feel more comfortable taking David Bell because in the 10th round, 11th round, once again, all depending on your drafts, how this is going to go, I see him having a year, pretty decent. 800 yards maybe, 7 touchdowns, 6, 7 touchdowns maybe. I can see him at least getting 60 to 70 targets or receptions. So I feel pretty
ambitious for a rookie.
Yeah, 100%. Okay. It is ambitious, but I guess you have to be ambitious, especially if I'm going to be taking the rookie. This is why I'm taking him. I'm ambitious about him.
Okay.
So that's my thought process.
You said in a year from now, who's going to be more valuable? Well, is this because of age? Are we worried about Amari Cooper
no,
because of age?
I'm not worried about Amari Cooper at all. This is just based on ADP and what I believe I can get where I can get value maybe in other places compared to where I can get Amari Cooper, if that makes sense.
The question was more like to the community watching, but I'm glad that we got you.
Oh, okay. I thought you were asking me. I don't know, but anyways.
No, sorry. Well, I'm asking people, are we worried about the age? Because in 1 year from now, Amari Cooper will be as old as Stephon Diggs. Mm-hmm. Okay? We're drafting Stephon Diggs in the early 3rd round. Mm-hmm. Now, Stephon Diggs has a long-term contract connected to an elite quarterback. Amari Cooper has a long-term contract connected to an elite quarterback. Mm-hmm. Okay? Mm-hmm. He's 27 years old. He is, and a lot of the wide receivers in this range are 29. They're 30. Like these win now wide receivers. Amari Cooper in the mid to late 8th round is such a good value if you're going to be a win now team. I think he fits the win now strategy perfectly. So give me Amari Cooper. This isn't an anti-David Bell take. It might sound like it, but it's not. David Bell going the mid-10th, Amari Cooper in the mid-8th. So you're telling me 2 rounds earlier I could get Amari Cooper, who's 27 years old, let's just talk about it from a talent perspective, okay?
Yeah.
I had David Bell ranked as the 11th most talented wide receiver in this class. I projected him to be a good wide receiver 2 for a team. I did not see alpha wide receiver 1 numbers or production for David Bell in the NFL. Now, Deshaun Watson can turn anyone into an alpha.
Yes.
But for me, if I'm looking at David Bell and Amari Cooper, does David Bell worry me if I'm an Amari Cooper owner? No, I think exactly how I scouted him, he becomes a really good wide receiver too. But Amari Cooper, in my eyes, is still one of the best route runners in the NFL. He's one of the best off the line attackers down the field. And he's a true alpha wide receiver 1. He is. Next, let's talk about the proven production. Again, I like David Bell as a talent, but I don't project him to ever become an all-pro type wide receiver. I don't see that in his game. I could be wrong. I know Amari Cooper is old, if 27 years old is old now in the Dynasty community, right? I know he's old, but he was still a top 5 pick in the NFL draft, and he has proven production. So give me the knowns over the unknowns. We're talking about Amari, who is a 5-time Pro Bowler, 5 years over 1,000 yards, averaging 6.5 touchdowns per season, 2 top 15 finishes in the last 3 seasons. And now he gets to link up with Deshaun Watson. What happened when Stephon Diggs moved from an offense where he was 1A, 1B to him being the target with an elite quarterback? His value skyrocketed. And we're talking about Amari Cooper, who I think if Deshaun Watson plays all the years, the entire year, if he's not suspended, which is probably not going to happen, but if he does play the entire season, we're talking about Amari Cooper, top 12 finish, very, very possible for Amari Cooper. And what will we think of him next year? Well, if that's the case, then he will be 28 years old, the same as Stephon Diggs. Maybe next year he's a 5th-round pick in startups. Maybe he's a 6th-round pick in startups. So, and as far as David Bell goes, if he does break out, I don't necessarily see that happening as a rookie. So he might be someone that you could look at trading for next year. Okay. So at the end of the day, it really comes down to overall talent and what I think could happen in 1 year's time. I know David Bell is younger. I know, he, hasn't been in the league as long as Amari Cooper, but I would rather take the knowns over the unknowns. It's not as if it was Jahan Dotson to Cleveland, because I liked Jahan better as a talent.
Right.
It's not as if it was Sky Moore to Cleveland. It's not as if it was, Jameson Williams or, one of these guys I really loved. So I didn't love David Bell as a talent, and I like the landing spot. He definitely can be fantasy relevant with Deshaun Watson, but I just think a lot of us, when we see Amari Cooper on the board, like, man, he's old. But we're drafting him around like D-Hop, who's 30.
Yeah, it's not even that he's old. To be honest, I agree with you. Everything you say, I agree. It's not even that he's old. I think I can see more valuable players where Amari Cooper is going and maybe have potential.
Oh yeah,
longevity.
Well, I don't agree with I think who were the names that you said there? Pollard.
I said Waller, Tom Brady. I said Waller, Tom Brady, Allen Robinson, Tony Pollard, Brandon Cooks, Dawson Knox, Allegado, Juju. Yeah. All those guys.
Allen Robinson's interesting for sure, but I don't think there's anyone else on that list that I personally would prefer over Amari, but I get it. Yeah. I think there's just such a fatigue in the community with Amari Cooper's name. It feels like he's been around for 2 decades. But I think he's still very, very good wide receiver. As a route runner, I think he's still top 5 in the NFL.
I think I'm more fatigued on the conversations have around Amari Cooper every single year leading up until the season. Amari banged up in minicamp, or Amari is banged up. We don't know if he's going to start week 1, and then he's injured. He lingering with an injury all season, and you're like, damn.
But yeah, he plays through it.
Yeah, he plays through it. That's what I'm saying.
5 years over 1,000 yards, 5 Pro Bowl seasons. It's not we're talking about a guy who's never put it together. Okay, the next teammates that we're talking about, again, based off of ADP and projecting their value in 1 year from now, Brandin Cooks or John Metchie. Okay, I'll go first.
Yeah,
give me John Metchie. And this is not an anti-Brandin Cooks take. Again, it's not that I don't dislike Brandin Cooks at all. I think they're both good values, but give me John Metchie. Let's talk about draft capital. Was I the only one who was extremely surprised when the Texans drafted John Metchie that early in the NFL draft? Was I the only one?
I think we said it.
Question to the community, but you can answer as well if you want.
We did say it was like there was one guy that we won't be surprised if goes high in the NFL draft just because of where he went to school. It was John Metchie. He was like,
I was thinking like third round. Yeah. Like I was like that would be where I was like expecting it. But
for sure.
Round 2, pick 12. Round 2, pick 12. There has to be a plan for John Metchie. There has to be a plan. They loved Metchie. So they drafted him over the following players, okay? George Pickens, Alec Pierce, Sky Moore, and David Bell. That's how much they loved John Metchie. They drafted him over all of those players. Did I agree with it? Hell no. But there has to be a reason that they drafted him this high. Right. And really what this comes down to is, what are Davis Mills' strengths? How has he succeeded so far as a quarterback? Pretty solid rookie year, but there's some pretty clear weaknesses.
Right.
Let's look at this. Davis Mills last year, yards per attempt, 25th. Okay? 25th in the NFL, which meaning a lot of his success came from short passes, which is very favorable for a slot wide receiver like John Metchie. How about his accuracy rating? Well, it was 27th in the NFL. Wide receivers like Cooks, I think, could struggle with consistency down the field with the quarterback that hasn't been so accurate, according to Player Profiler. Let's talk about the pressured completion percentage. So when he's under pressure, what's his completion percentage? That is 19th in the NFL. Again, Cooks wants to get down the field. He wants to stretch the field. But if we're going to see Davis Mills under pressure, which I think we will, is that going to be a good combination? How about play action percentage? Because really, this is where Brandin Cooks is deadly. If you can establish the run and use a play action over the top with Brandin Cooks, that is nasty. So play action completion percentage, Davis Mills 27th in the NFL. So to me, I would argue that Davis Mills' strengths as a quarterback actually suit John Metchie as a player more than it suits Brandin Cooks. I think Brandin Cooks is going to be great. I think he's going to be more valuable year one. I'm not saying that he won't be, but at the same time, I do think this time next year, John Metchie will be more valuable in dynasty communities than Brandin Cooks.
Okay. For me, it has to be Brandin Cooks, and I don't know if you hit on it, but this is where Brandin Cooks is going in our latest mock drafts. Okay, Brandin Cooks 10.4, 9.3, 10.6. John Metchie pretty similar, 11.6, 11.5, 11.7. Not that much of a difference. Okay, for me, when I look into this, when I looked at these two players, as much as I love John Metchie, it's not really far off. So I'm taking Brandin Cooks. Brandin Cooks, I think, is a more efficient guy. He's a more proven guy, and I believe he is going to be the guy that Davis Mills is going to be targeting. I think this team is going to be playing from behind a lot more, or just a lot in general. We were talking about, I think that was the Lions. But this team plays from behind a lot. They need to throw the ball. Yeah. And I think both of these guys are going to be fantasy relevant. Once again, it's not an anti-John Metchie. I just prefer where I can get Brandin Cooks. Brandin Cooks the past 2 years had over 1,000 yards. And these are with random quarterbacks, mind you. But this past year, even with Davis Mills over 1,000 yards, average 7.8 targets per game, over 13 fantasy points per game. This is efficiency. Doesn't matter with who. With Davis Mills, even if Davis Mills went down, he was still putting up points. I'm pretty sure Davis Mills, there was a period where Tyrod Taylor was playing and then he came back. Yeah. And then it was all up and down. So it doesn't matter who he's playing with or who's throwing to him. I think Brandin Cooks is the guy that you should be taking. Once again, can I flip Brandin Cooks later in the year? I think you can, if he goes, even if he has less than 1,000 yards, 900 yards, 800 yards, but he averages the same amount of targets or close to the same amount of targets, averaging minimum 10 points per game, I think you can still sell Brandin Cooks for a late first or maybe do a package deal. And I think that will be a lot better for you if you were trying to transition to a win now, to a futuristic team. If you're a win now team, taking Brandin Cooks, or let's just say Brandin Cooks was there and you're a futuristic team and you picked him up, you can sell him for a first potentially next year, depending on how he goes in 2022. So for me, it has to be Brandin Cooks.
Do you think this is a genuine question? Do you think people will give up a first round pick?
People were doing it. People were doing it this year, and once again, this we don't know what he's going to look like next year. But if he comes close to what he did last year, I think people would. Some people, if there's always a win now team in a league.
Okay. Maybe. I don't know. Like, if I'm a win now team, do I really want to give a future first for Brandin Cooks? I don't know. I don't know if I really want to do that. Like,
I don't know either.
He's good, but I don't think he's. And again, not an anti-Brandin Cooks take at all. But I just like I said, I think Davis Mills, his game suits John Metchie really well. And the more I looked at that, the more I thought,
by the way,
it makes sense why they would take John Metchie.
These guys aren't far off in my wide receiver board. Brandin Cooks, my wide receiver, 46. John Metchie, 54. So if Brandin Cooks is not there, I am happily taking John Metchie. So
Cooks is my 46 as well, and Metchie is my 51. So I'm a little bit higher on Metchie, but yeah. But let us know in the comments down below. Are you taking Amari Cooper or David Bell? And are you taking Brandin Cooks or John Metchie?
Yo, what's good? Thanks for watching. We got a lot more videos.
A lot more.
If you want more videos.
Watch
now,
it.
You can also subscribe.
Right now.
If you want to.
You need to.
And lastly, don't forget that you can sign up to support the show and get exclusive content by going to patreon.com/fantasylandfam.